All right, well, hello, paradigm shifters. It's Transformation Tuesday again. We've been going to Adeline. We've been doing this since March of 2020. Every
Wow.
every Tuesday, and you were on at the very beginning.
Yeah, that's amazing though. Every Tuesday since March. I mean, my goodness, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Congratulations. Yes.
and we've grown and grown and grown. We're like well over 1,600 people, and from all these countries. But the one thing that's so mm, together with this, we're dedicated, you know, we're dedicated to shift and uplift the planet. And we can't do it alone.
Mm.
And every single person that comes on here to speak has some kind of gold nugget about their lives, you know? So that we're in September 2023, and the topic for this month is our children, our future. Wow, huh?
Mm.
I thought, oh, Adelina's the mama queen here.
Mama Queen. Wow. I
I
will do
remember,
my best to live up to that title.
no, I remember when I first met you, you were not a mama, but you were
Right.
yearning for that motherhood and that family. And boy, you manifested family. So with this is Adelina Trancioco, my Trancioco, my buddy from
Trancioco.
yeah, from my buddy from Santa Rosa, California. So come on in here, Adelina. What gold nuggets and who are you and where are you? And we're so grateful that you're speaking to us today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I know my last name is hard. It's Trancioco. But yes, I am in San Jose, California. And I'm a mama of two, which actually was my vision when we first met. It was to have two babies and, not to be all cliche, but to have a boy and a girl, just to vary it up. I also wanted a daughter first, and God just gave me everything I wanted. So what can I say? um, I am also the founder of Surrendered Healing. We are a coaching consulting business, moving more into products though, because really want to be able to serve more people. And so we're excited to be doing that work. Um, you said gold nuggets. I mean, like out of anything, like that's kind of a broad
Anything
prompt.
that I love it. Just you're a mom, so how important are your children, or how important how is important as a mom? If you were to speak to other moms right now in 2023, what is it that you're finding about this phase of your life?
I've gotten really philosophical. Can I go into that? My
Absolutely.
philosophical thoughts. I and it's not like by myself, like learning from other folks as well, specifically thinking of JL, who's a Filipino healer, and she talks about like capitalism and how capitalism has really shifted our parenting, where and I know she didn't make this up either, right? So we're like learning from all of these different activists and things like that, different mamas. um but this shift from working around your family life, right? Letting your family life be the core and the focus and the driver of what you do. And then work around that, to meet the needs of your family, but really the family being the core of that. Capitalism has really made it so that we work our children around our work life, right? And so I've just been getting, I used to do therapy, as in, like, I mean, I still receive therapy, but I used to do mental health work. I used to be a mental health professional, was trained as a therapist as well. And so I think a lot about uh, childhood trauma. I think about attachment issues. I think about depression and anxiety. And becoming a mom has really shifted my awareness of how much of it starts in childhood. And I believe so much of it is a result of um, capitalism being the way in which controlling how we can parent. And I'm by no means, on one side or the other of like a working mom or a stay-at-home mom. I actually don't think it's about that. But I think it's about our focus as society isn't about raising our children and like loving on our children, not just our individual children, but children in general, and loving on them, letting that be the focus. When you say our children are our future, and people say that all the time, right? Not in that way, but people have this idea like children are our future, but yet we haven't created a society that respects that. And so when I think about separation anxiety of children, when I think about postpartum depression of mothers, right? And I think and I look around the world and see how poorly treated our mothers are in America in comparison to all other, first world countries who offer, 1 year maternity leave, paid maternity leave. Did you know that Finland will pay you if you don't need daycare? They will pay you the check that would otherwise go to free daycare. So there's just this like, I don't know, like layering of harm, harm being done to our kids, to the mothers, and therefore to the entire family systems. Um,
So how are
that wasn't
you?
really a gold nugget, but that was like my
You
philosophical thoughts.
what are you choosing to do as a parent now with what is it, a 4-year-old and a what 1.5, right?
No, he's 8 months.
8 months. Wow. Well,
Yes.
so as you ponder this, what personally are you doing in your world, family world? How are you um, living your core values with as a mom?
It's a great question. We're working on it. Because I've also been sitting with, this idea of like it takes a village, right? People say that all the time. And yet again, capitalism has really torn apart our natural way of villaging, right? Where a lot of moms don't have villages, where you don't have, multiple generations living in your same household. You don't live close by your siblings or your kids don't live near their cousins and parents and all of that. And so I've just been really, first and foremost, been just curious with myself, like, well, what would best serve me and my family? I've been stepping into faith a lot, which has been the work that we do here, right? The work that you do here is very faith based, and I don't say faith like sit down and wait, hope that something changes. It's a very convicted faith, like and trust that spirit is on your side. And so, like you said, how am I living into my values? So right now, so in 2021, my husband lost his job. And so I became the sole financial provider. And so I didn't spend as much time as I had planned with my then 1 year old, right? Um, but now having a second child, I'm very committed to spending the time with him in this early stage regardless. And so he hasn't found a job. I know that that is coming. I have pulled back a lot of the work that I was doing, in my work, in my business, so I could be present with my kids. Does that make financial sense? No, it doesn't make financial sense at all. It would be, and it's crazy how much easier and cheaper, not easier, but like not easier necessarily emotionally, but it cost me more to do this than it would to find a nanny, right? If I found a nanny and then I did the work that I do in the world, I would make more money doing that, right? So it cost me more to be my own kid's nanny, you know. Um, but so we're walking in faith here right now, like deep faith. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I know that spirit doesn't make us sacrifice our core values, right? Um, and with my 4 year old turning, I mean, she just turned 4 in August. So I know how fast that time goes, as cliche as that sounds, right? That how quickly time goes. And, she's already in school. So like that main time with her is, has already passed, I mean, she's still home with us, but like that, all day long time, she needs that socialization. She loves going to school and making friends and things like that. So I wouldn't hold her back from that. Um, but yeah, so we're really walking in faith here.
Great. Isn't that isn't that what the world is doing right now? Yes. Well, so tell me more. Tell me more. Like as you vision when, say, Willow in is like 10 years from now and looks back. You know, there's something about this early time in their lives that is so important, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so your question is, what will it look like in 10 years? Is
Well,
that your
as
question?
yeah, what is the future of, well, so many children stayed home because of COVID. They, forced, right? And there were these bondings that happened, and people are like working remotely or like really finding the importance of that nurturing of the kids. So, how
Hmm.
do you find time to nurture yourself as a mom?
I'm working on that village, working on finding that village, creating that village, being that village. I think for me, I think it's, I used to do a lot of work, especially when I was a social worker, around self-care, right? And like this idea of like making sure that you're taking time for yourself and things, which I think is so important. But I actually think that it is like the just not all of it. Like I think yes, take care of ourselves, but really it's how can we create um Jelaine from Cambio Co. She talks about creating ecosystems instead of empires. And I think and I love that. I love that idea. And I think when I think of motherhood, I think of it as like instead of creating our own self-care routine, how are we creating and caring for community, right? So AAPI Women Lead, they talk a lot about um, community care. And so that's really where I'm focused on right now is like, how can I create and nurture the friendships, the relationships, the family, so that we're taking care of each other because I also find that it's not about like, oh, did I go get my massage? I mean, that's helpful, but it's about like knowing that I can relax my mind, that me and my husband are not the only adults, loving adults in our children's lives. We're not, when we're hanging out with people, being able to let them kind of go free a little bit, right? Like crawl around, walk around, hang out, knowing and trusting that there are other caring adults that are looking out for them, that the other kids that they're playing with are also, friends of our, kids of our friends or family members that we can trust them as well. So there's that like that is really what I need. I don't need an hour to go get my nails done or get a massage. I need to know that I can call somebody and say, "Oh my God, guess what? So and so did today. Willow or Everest did today." Or, you know what? I don't know what the hell to do. You know what I mean about this? What do you think? And it's like someone who gets them, who trusts them, that I don't have to feel a certain way about, like, oh, if I tell them this, that they're going to judge me or judge my child, right? I can lean on them. That is going to go much further than a 1 hour massage. You know what I mean?
So it's the community, creating community. Ooh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what would your ideal, let's just like play around in your imagination. What would your ideal
Yeah.
community look like, feel like, taste like? Tell me about an ideal community. This is great news.
This is actually really helpful. I haven't said all of this in like one conversation. Like there's been like little bits and pieces that I've just been sharing with people or realizing for myself, but
So
it's
tell, I
very
mean, don't
helpful.
you feel it's time? Like these are paradigm shifters, man. We're all into that. What? No,
I love it.
and what
Yes.
if? Let's play the what if up game. You know that game, right? What if
What if
up? It's like you get to say, what if da 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 da, and then we go, oh, what if up? Ooh, let's take your idea and up it even another level, and then pass it to
mm,
someone else. So yeah, what if up? We
I
know
mean,
that.
honestly, I really would love to change society altogether.
Well,
Because if you're
what are
talking
you
about
doing
up,
like
like
in your little
expanding it.
community? What can you do in your community, in your family? what if up? What would you love?
Maybe I'm not grabbing. What would I love? I mean, I I would love to have the time freedom, right, to be with my kids. I would love for money to flow such that it is there to serve, really, but it's not the focal point because it just comes easily, right? I would love to just have kind of that relationship with other people, that comes easily too. But I think like I've been sitting with, again, going back to the philosophical, I've actually was doing some research on like tribal life and how when we were in tribes, we one, it was like smaller, like right, way smaller communities. So I was looking up, I was researching like, because my question for this research was what is the most natural habitat if we look at human beings as creatures, as animals, what is the most natural habitat for human beings, that would produce the most people thriving, like so that more people would thrive? What kind of habitat would allow us to thrive? And
Definitely.
so that, yes, this question led me to tribal life. Not to say, and again, I don't like to romanticize the past, it's not necessarily, or other places in the world, but I was just curious. And so that question led me to tribal life. And I was reading this article, and I'm sorry that I can't remember who wrote the article, but I was reading this article about tribal life versus society, like societal life, which is what we have now.
Yeah.
And so they were saying, like, we're actually meant to live in much smaller communities, like 50 to 100 people. Um, and what happens when we live in smaller communities is that people don't have as much of a hierarchy because everyone's role really matters. So, and without a hierarchy, the relationships are more authentic. And with the authentic relationships, there's less loneliness,
That's
right? And more community, right? And so I guess currently in this immediate time, what I'm trying to do, and really praying and listening to God is who who is the tribe that God has already sent my way, that God has already sent,
let's
right?
write that. Let me write that down because I think that's really a good question right now. So hang on, I'm going to put a little pause in there. And who is the tribe that God is sending my way? Is that the question,
It
right?
has already sent. It's already sent. Like God has already sent. Like it's already done, right? So I must be closing my eyes to it or something, right? So let me just be curious. Let me open my eyes. Like if I believe and trust that God knows what we need before we even know that we need it, right? Then it's not even like if I were looking for a 9 to 5 job right now, right? Which I'm not. But if I were, I don't take it as like, okay, God is sending me the right job. It's like the job has already been sent, right? I just haven't been aware to, I'm not aware of it just yet. So let me become aware, right? So then that is my current prayer is like, okay, God, who is the tribe that you've already sent, right? What does that look like? And when you're talking about upping it, like I'm, and I come from a social worker background, right? Come from and not to say that all social workers are also activists, but come from this more progressive place of like, and I think about COVID and I think about the pandemic and I think about the ways in which we showed up for each other, right? I also think about the ways in which we didn't. And something that they were also saying is like the number of people that died from COVID was so significant that our mind can't even comprehend it. Like once it got to such a big number, and I don't even have the statistics offhand, but once the number got hit something else, anything more than that, as human beings, we couldn't comprehend it. And then it brings me back to that idea of it's because we're not meant to be in these large societies. We're meant to be in 50 to 100. So if we were in 50 to 100 and 75 people died, well, we would wake up to that. But once it gets beyond this big number of like millions of people, we just can't physically comprehend it. So it's like, okay, well, how can we pull it back so that we can be our best version of human beings, right? Our best version of a human being, you know, and really loving on and creating these ecosystems, where we are relating to each other as a peer, you know, we're supporting each other as family, and we're showing up for each other as community.
Ooh, what a great. There you go. It's so true, isn't it? Yeah. I love the communities that I belong to, and
Mm,
the staying curious about staying curious and asking questions, knowing that I'm not going to be judged if I don't already have the answers. And
right.
there's always someone who has more experience than me. And that's what I love. I don't know what it's like to be 40 or 50 in 2023. I hardly know what it's like to be. I don't know what it's like to be this age and to stay curious, not judgmental, but that curiosity. And I love that you called it an ecosystem. That's what
Yes.
it.
I mean, I adapted that right from Jelaine. But yes, this idea of like when you think ecosystems, right, you think like loving on, supporting, and requiring each other, really requiring one another. And I think again, I think back to the pandemic and um, you know, like the core workers, you know what I mean? Like the people, what was that called before? When it was like the grocery store workers, the doctors,
Workers. Yeah, yeah.
essential workers, right? Like if we really treated each other as each of us were essential, and that's what kind of like the smaller kind of communities allows you to do. And so I don't know, there's just like and I think it allows us also to or it's helping me remember to humanize people, right? When I am somewhere, it's like, oh, okay, if I mean, thinking of grocery store worker, right? So if this grocery store worker, and I don't even go inside grocery stores, I do a drive and pick up because Lord goodness, it's so much easier. But even then, somebody else has to collect my groceries for me and then like bring it to my car, right? And so if I can just like take a moment and be like, oh, they're a part of my community. There's not this like random stranger, like this person is part of my community. This person is essential, you know? Um, like then there's a different level of exchange even to receive the bag, and even if it's just like in eye contact, even if it's just reading their name tag and saying thank you in their name tag, there's just a different level of connection that's made when we do that type of relating to each other.
Awesome. It's the level of awareness of each other, no matter what age they are or
Oh
what
yeah, for sure.
nationality or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
So awesome. Have you found yourself like what are some of the like as you go out and do the parenting thing,
Mm.
the learning the parent, I just love it because I've known you for so long. The parenting thing. What are some of your paradigms that come up as you do step out and do things on your own? I don't mean on your own, but your way. What are some paradigms that come up that you go, gonna do it?
Yeah, well, so it was interesting. I realized that with Willow, my older one, because we were in the pandemic since she was 6 months. And we didn't actually leave the pandemic until this, like, less than a year ago, like November. We waited until she was fully vaccinated. So what that meant is that we stayed super, super small in like who we did see in person and all that. But why I did it is I realized that I was kind of new to being a mom outside of like my home, right? Like real like being able to like feel other people's thoughts and judgments and hear that I didn't have to deal with that for the first like 3 years of her life. I was like, oh, this I never noticed this. I remember one of the first times that I went out with her and I was like, oh my God, I never want to go out again because there was just different interactions and different ideas of parenting around me. And I was like, oh my God, I just didn't like warm up to it. Like I think a lot of moms are like, you experience it. Now I'm experiencing it with Everest. He's younger, but you go out. I go out often with him, so like I see people looking at me or judging or whatever, and so you just get used to it. But with Willow, it was just this like such isolation, and then boom, we were out. Um, but it has been very helpful to, I think some of the paradigms that I have shifted and I'm working on shifting is shifting like the model of parenting that I was raised with. And with all love for my mom, I wasn't raised by my dad, so all love for my mom. I know that she did the best that she could, and I'm happy with who I became, so it's not like a negative thing, but just more of like, oh, we can do it differently, right? And so I and I know it also bothers the crap out of my mom, but I don't require that Willow respect elders. I think elders can also earn it. So I'm not saying like she has to speak badly or be rude to people, but simply being older, which is what I raised, simply being older meant that you were to be respected. Um, but that's also what creates an environment for sexual assaults and abuse is like this, like I'm blinded, like you just have to listen to um, an elder. So what that means is like Willow doesn't give hugs and kisses unless she wants to. I really respect her person. Living in the social media world, sometimes it's hard because I want to post something or I want to take a photo of her, but I don't do it unless she, gives me permission, essentially, so just because she's older, um, to do that. I read somewhere I read it on Instagram, and I'm sorry that I can't remember who posted it, but just this idea of like a lot of times with teenagers, we wonder why teenagers are so quiet and don't tell us what was going on for them or why they're upset or whatever was happening for them. But then if we look back to when they're like 2 or 3, and the first time they start having emotions, which is like tantruming, right? And we tell them like that's not a big deal, right? Like, oh, your broken crayon is not a big deal, and then you know what I mean? Like, and we tell them to be quiet or go to the room or whatever, whatever. And then we wonder why, as a teenager, they don't come to us. Well, we told them that their feelings didn't matter, right? So, like, doing that differently, you know? So there's a lot of things. I mean, but I will also say, like, I mean, I'm not like, there's this whole movement towards like gentle parenting. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% on that wagon either. I'll talk to Willow. I actually am very, um, I talked to her. What was there something she did? Sometimes when me and Rex are talking, Willow gets confused and she feels like what she feels like she has to stick up for one person or the other. And we're a neurodiverse couple, so that means that we have to be super clear and direct with how we communicate. But it's not always like, hey, honey, do you think that you could da 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 da? That's too many words. It's just like, can you do the garbage? You know what I mean? It's like very, you know what I mean? I asked you earlier to do the garbage, you didn't do the garbage, what happened? Like it's a very like it has to like come out all the frills because we're neurodiverse. But so anyway, Willow will be like, don't yell at each other. And then I'm like, we're not yelling. We're not yelling. We're talking, but we have to talk in this way. We can't, Anyway, so we've told Willow that, we've talked to her about it. Still she gets all riled up sometimes. So I actually told her, like, I don't we talked to you about it. We've shared it with you. It's very hard, I'm sure, for you to understand. But if you continue to interrupt me and Daddy while we're talking, then I'm gonna try some other consequences. Like it's not gonna just be like, "Hey, honey, stop talking. Hey, baby, like go to your room. Hey, take a deep breath." If none of that works, I told her I'm gonna start doing what my mom did to me. Okay? She's like, "Well, what's that?" I was like, "You're not gonna like it, but let me tell you, unless you can find a solution with me, I'm trying everything and you keep interrupting and screaming. So we're going to find other solutions." So I say that to say like I'm not the most gentle all the time. Or like, but it's like whatever works for your kid. And I think so what has happened since we've started going out again, which really is less than a year ago, um, I think it's this idea of like I can continue to parent the way that I parent, regardless of who's around me, you know. So sometimes it bothers people because I could be, you know, too old school. A lot of times it bothers people because I'm doing a lot of more feelings than than we were raised with. So it's like, Willow, how are you feeling? My family's like, what the fuck? Really? How is she feeling? She's throwing a tantrum. She doesn't get to da da da. So, you know, um,
Wow. Well, this is really good. I really feel that more conversations that are just out there, need to be had. And you just brought up too, and that we're going to end in a minute, but the that is new to me, like, oh, there's a whole group of moms with infants during COVID who were there that are now getting out. And that is like a whole nother group of people that I never really um, thought about because it's not in my
Mm,
not in my you know I
peripheral, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so this is what Paradigm Shifters is so good because we're bringing conversations together. No right or wrong, people's opinions, you know, and it's important to listen and stay curious. Stay curious. Stay curious about that community thing, and stay curious about community care. So that I love what you said. So you can relax your mind,
Yes.
which
Yes.
and allowing more people to thrive. So let's. What I would like to do now is to take a deep breath here. Oh, so much. I'm going to definitely listen to this again sometime. Thank you so much for coming out and like talking to us. And
Thanks. I feel like there was so many like unfinished sentences. Like, cause there's like, well, here's one thought, here's another thought, but
isn't
it's
that the
still
way
in the
life is?
working, you know?
That's, yeah, I mean, isn't that perfect? Because we're all perfectly perfect right where we are. And it's not about trying to figure it out. It's like you said, God has a plan. Who are my tribe? Where am I to be here? Who am I to be with my kids or not? Or, you know, and all of that. So, what I would love to ask you, what would you love for to have us hold for you and your beautiful home? What
Mm,
would you love?
I would love, like, something I think about a lot is one day soon, this will be a story to tell of like, oh my God, I was so scared, that I would have to do X, Y, and Z, that we wouldn't have the time, that I wouldn't be able to focus on my kids as the main core, that I would have to do it the way that I, was taught to do. Um, so I would love for you and the community to hold just this vision of me dropping my kids off, well, dropping Willow off because I still have Everest at home, doing what I'm doing right now, but with like no fear and like a six-bedroom house and like the flow and the ease and just like I'm working on a children's book, so letting that kind of be, like our products and stuff really being like the monetary, you know, source, but not the focus. So just like this, like ease of flow.
Oh, all right. You ready to receive it? Okay, so
Yes,
the energy here. Oh, you get to receive it,
I
right?
get to receive it. Okay,
You're
okay.
the receiver. Okay, here it is, all the way to Santa Rosa, ease and flow. And I'm so looking forward to.
San Jose, San Jose. I
I
just
mean,
want to send it to the right place. I was like, send
oh,
it to the right
sorry.
place. I'm in San Jose.
I straight from all over the world to yeah to you.
Thank you.
And knowing that the books, oh my God, the children's books about what you're going through and all the everything, and yes, and so it is. Here we go. Got it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Totally receiving it.
Thank you so much. And it's so good to see you again. And I know you're part of these thriving communities. We just haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's always, always, always an honor. And I love the work that you do, Judy, to just like stay in this place of like receiving and giving and transforming. I know it's not, I would imagine that it takes some internal work. And so thank you for the work that you're doing to do
Right.
you. Yeah. I'm like, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but if I feels like it must be hard work. So thank you.
Oh, Yes, yes, yes. And I know we're like whatever. This will be a long one, but it is internal work. No matter what age, or no matter what's going on out there, it's like, oh well, what is it? What is mine to do for
Mm,
my family,
yes.
as a model? How's that for you? And I had a when I look at my mom would have been 107 like
Oh,
today.
wow.
She's not. She's
Oh,
passed.
yes. Well, happy
I mean,
birthday to your mom.
yeah,
Yes.
amen. But when I look at like, wow, all raising a bunch of hellions, right? and, and it's still, is whatever. But there was something about her that she was um, curious. That was the word, curious. And even
Mm,
like up into her 90s, she got a new car at 90. But she was in curious,
wow.
driving, like you said, to the small communities and
Mm,
finding their museums,
mm.
talking to the people wherever she was. And there's one story, then I'll be quiet. She went out to California to visit my brother, right? and and with her walker, right? She went down one of these fishing piers, right? You know, and she sat down by somebody fishing, and they were catching the fish, and she was yakking their head off. But she'd never been there before. She was curious about
Mm.
who he was, who his community was, and so my brother has stories about her in California and all the people. She would walk home in her walker and tell him about all the people that she met. And I'm
I
like,
love that.
yeah. And like so my brother, who's well, whatever, he took a picture and photoshopped a picture sitting on the pier with my mom with a fishing pole with fish all over.
I love it. I love it. I mean, how old did she live to?
95.
Wow.
Yeah, and just kicking all, I mean, like sharpen the tack all the way. For me, the importance is to keeping my mind and my brain strong. Is that means being curious about you, about and curious about you, and like, wow, curious about that
Mm,
grocery worker just carrying your groceries out. Like, I'm so grateful for strong young men right now.
mm. Amen. Yes. Oh, I love that. I have a friend who just got tattooed on her wrist. Be curious. It says be curious. So it's just like she could see it all the time, just to stay in that state. But I'm gonna hold on to that. My goal is to live to 101. I would love to live to 101. I would live one whole year in my three digits. So I will hold that in mind, is to stay curious as a part of keeping my mind healthy.
Amen.
Yeah,
Well,
and so calm. Yeah.
you're 101, I'll be 125 or something. So we'll see.
All
We'll see.
right, let's
Adelina.
let's do
Later.
it. Let's do it.